Two games in the NBA Finals in the books. Game one goes to Denver. Game two goes to Miami. Denver owned it in game one, and then Miami showed their grit in game two. Series tied at 1. Now we'll see in the best 2 out of 3 from here on out. So the NBA Finals have been very interesting, and let's see what happens. Hayden, Alex, and Faces with us this evening. What's up, gentlemen?
Not much. Excited to be here.
Thank you. We're excited to have you all. So, with this series tied at 1 apiece, the four of us all expected the Nuggets to win pretty handily. And no bars tonight, but he was the one person who picked Miami. Yet, I think the whole nation expects Denver to dominate. Yet Miami beat them in their own home courts. So tell me, guys, how is Miami staying alive? And will they stay alive for the rest of this series? It seems this team just won't die.
Uh,
No,
I mean,
no.
I mean, what Miami did. Sorry.
The like to see so like game one, I think the final score was they lost Denver won by 11, but the game was like well over before that. Like it was a lot of garbage time that kind of cut it that. Denver didn't even play well in game one. Like they shot like under 30% from the 3-point line. Jokic had like under 20 points. It was like a whole home game for him, and they still pretty handily controlled it. For game two to happen, for Miami to win by 3 points, which was basically should Mike Malone have called the timeout to run a better play from going into overtime, which Denver probably would have won based on their comeback. Miami needed everybody except for Jokic and Murray to score under 10 points. Gabe Vincent and Duncan Robinson to go off. KCP to foul 3-point shooters in the act of shooting twice. And like that's and they still only won by 3. Like that shit is never happening again for that to happen. Like it is. I'm pretty sure they'll figure out like they're not gonna leave Duncan Robinson or Gabe Vincent open as often as they did in that game. Like some of the I think it was the third quarter one on the pin down where both I think it was Brown and Braun, both of them went after Duncan Robinson. Like that shit's not gonna be happening again. Like it was like we expected, most of us expect Miami to get one. This was it. Like the stars aligned for them to do it.
Okay, so would you, for all purposes, say this was a fluke win from Miami?
Yeah, they really probably should have gotten their asses kicked in that game. Like that game looked over going into halftime, or like right whenever Denver went up 15, like they went on like a 30-2 run or something in like 10 minutes. It looked basically over.
Yeah, and the difference of free throws, especially, Miami didn't get a lot. What, they only had 2 free throws in game one, and then game two, multiple. So that obviously really helps. And also, Bam Adebayo really stepping up. Alex, you're muted. Well, it's not even saying mute on our end. I'm sure
Yeah,
Alex
that's
will
why.
fix. I'm sure Alex will fix that shortly, but we'll wait for his hot take.
Yeah, no, this is like yeah, they're gritty and they're getting the money and stuff for like Gambits and shit, but like they'll adjust. They'll put so the big adjustment was they switched Kevin Love into the starting lineup so that they actually had some size to try to guard like Aaron Gordon. Okay. They'll just drag Kevin Love into every pick and roll now. He's still not going to be able to guard him, or they'll just run more pick and rolls with somebody else, or they'll stick Jokic in the corner to give them more spacing or something. It's not like this is a team that still has the size or anything to play the defense that's going to really shut down Denver. Like most of it is
right.
Denver just didn't play great. Like and Miami did a pretty good job of staying attached to them. So they have a couple days to figure it out. I still don't like. I think Mike Malone probably should get more heat for not calling a timeout, or at least like. And
Yeah, that
to be
doesn't
fair,
really
Jamal
seem to be the
Murray,
narrative today. Not a lot of people really blaming him in the media
but
that I
like
haven't seen, at least.
and this is the thing that I keep harping on with Denver is the Jamal Murray. It's Jamal Murray time. Like the ball should have been in Jokic's hand. The man has hit like absurd buzzer beating 3-pointers. I would have still given it to him. And like even as good as Jamal is, I think that Jokic just had the better option to do it.
Yeah. Still having trouble with Alex here.
I guess I'll
wanna
should
just
hop
hop
on.
do you want to just hop in and out, Alex?
Yeah.
And
You can hear me now?
Yep, yeah,
Is
yeah.
it
we
better
hear it.
or is it like
Oh,
terrible?
we hear you. We didn't hear you at all.
Yeah, no, I'm on my PC and I haven't run my PC in a while, and I think it's just being weird. And this mic I had plugged in for a while, I think it's acting up, so I just moved to my camera's microphone. So it might not
Oh,
be
no
as
worries.
clear quality, but so sorry everyone. But
Oh, it's totally,
Yeah.
trust me, I've heard much worse.
yeah, I bet. So I'm here everyone. We're good. I was just gonna say real quick off of what Fresh Faces said. To me, it was just kind of more Denver gave that game up than the Heat like dominating and winning that game.
Mhm.
Like there were just so many annoying defensive lapses, and you could just tell Malone was furious because I don't know if you guys heard most of Malone's pregame, like his media day and stuff like that.
His
I-
pregame
I-
comments or his postgame ones?
His
I heard
pregame before going into this, like his media day stuff. He was on Sirius XM, so I heard that interview.
Mhm.
Yeah, I
Literally
heard all
said,
of it.
he literally said, like, I'm not like Gabe Vincent and them are not going to go over 5, like Doug Robinson. So we got to defend the 3. And the Nuggets came out so flat defensively and were giving up so many clean looks, expecting the Heat to miss them. And especially in the second half, too, on like the awful defense on the Doug Robinson with 2 people on Doug Robinson, like he's prime MJ. Like you don't have to, he doesn't need to draw 2 defenders at any moment. So that was the thing with me, just seeing what the Nuggets were doing in that game that I was trying to say before, was that it was just very frustrating. And the amount of times I saw Jamal Murray or a bunch of Nuggets players jumping on simple head fake pump fakes so the Heat got better looks was also infuriating. So like, I'm not going to call it a fluke win for the Heat. It's the way they win. They're scrappy. They find ways to win at the end of the day. But like, Denver literally handed them that win. They should have won that game handily against Miami.
Mm-hmm. Hayden, were you about to say something?
I mean, yeah, I mean, I think you guys are also like kind of not like they also did shoot almost 50% from the 3-point line. They went 17 to 35.
Yeah.
So they are so I wouldn't necessarily say that Denver like necessarily gave up the game. I mean, that sure Denver had some defensive lapses, but like Miami still had to hit all the shots. Like Miami's proven time and time again throughout these playoffs that whenever they need to make a clutch shot and whenever they need to make a comeback, they can do it. Every single series they've been down. I want to say they're 4-2 in which games in which they've trailed by 10 points or more. The rest of the league is in the playoffs is 6-12. So I mean, this is a team that they never give up, Miami. So I think you have to be locked in at all times. And I wouldn't necessarily think that Denver gave up the game. I think it's more actually Miami took the game and took it into their own hands because that's what they've been doing the whole postseason. I think teams are sleeping on Miami a little bit because they don't necessarily have the stars such as some of these other teams have. But Gabe Vincent, even Bam and Jimmy Butler and Duncan Robinson have proven they can be reliable 3-point shooters and reliable scorers late in the game. So, I mean, I think in a close game, I think Miami really is looking pretty good. And they're getting Tyler Hero back, supposedly. So, I mean, I thought the series was going to be 5. I still think Denver's going to win the series in either 5 or 6, but don't be surprised if Miami takes another game in this series because Miami has not given up the whole postseason. I think people are starting to sleep on Miami a little bit because they feel like Denver has Jokic and Murray, who are the 2 stars in the series. But I mean, you could argue right now that Miami is playing with more drive and more heart and more passion off the bench than the guys in Denver are.
I mean, like 50% shooting, but a lot of it was, guys open. Like it just was, and like I just there was too many defensive mistakes. They're too good a team for that to happen. They'll figure out some more motion stuff. This is like, especially the defensive stuff. It's kind of similar to like the Ruiz, the Jokic stopper stuff. Like you give them, the league is too good. These players are too smart to give them like a day to figure out. You throw the same thing at them. But again, like, yeah, they got guys who can shoot, but they're not consistent or dynamic enough, especially on the defensive end, to win games where really Denver just plays like garbage. Because, like, yeah, Miami had to hit half of their threes, and Denver really just played offensively like shit. Like Jamal Murray didn't get into double digits till that little comeback at the end. So like that was the second one. Like granted, Jokic could score literally whenever he wanted. But like, no, they'll be better. I'm not like super worried. It's more of a frustrating loss than it is. Like I fully expect them to come into Miami and blow them out in Game 3. Like as a fuck you statement, because I think they rightfully should know that they're the better team.
Yeah.
Live by the 3, die by the 3.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it was just like a weird also game just watching the Nuggets too. Like just seeing Michael Porter Jr. was like frustrating. He made a lot of really bad decisions, a lot of really lazy plays on defense. And you could tell even after like Malone didn't call him out, but you could tell by some of his statements he was saying, lack of hustle, lack of heart,
Yeah.
He's calling out players like Michael. And like we said, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope's 2 fouls were probably going to be shown by coaches to players for years to come of what not to do in the biggest of moments. 30-foot bombs by Max Strus fouling him, late in the shot clock. Same with Kyle Lowry, who I know people said, Lowry mean did it a little bit. Davis still closed way too far in on a shot like that. And Lowry's a veteran. He's going to draw the contact like that any which way possible. He was still in his landing spot, regardless if Kyle Lowry leaned. It wasn't like he tried to, drop kick him. So I think the Nuggets are picking themselves. They blew a good opportunity. I think they let the Heat get back in the game and be these late game warriors like they have been. But it's just, I think the Nuggets are going to come into the next game and be pissed because they knew they let a golden opportunity get away from them by playing into how the Heat play and letting them scrap and letting them battle and letting them take momentum and hitting the big shots when they need to. So it's going to be interesting to see how this Nuggets team comes out. They also came out flat in the first quarter and then immediately turned it around too. So I don't think the Nuggets are going to have a second straight game where they come out flat. I think what was the score? It was like the Heat went up like 10-0 early, right, or something like that, and then
they went on a 10-2 run at the end.
10-2 run. It was like a 10-2 run to start, and I was sitting there and I was like, oh, like the Heat are looking like that, and then the Nuggets went on their massive run.
They erased like a 12-point deficit in 2 minutes in the last 2 minutes of the game.
Yeah,
it's not like
yeah.
Like Miami doesn't have the firepower to do something like that. In the same way.
No.
Like they'll sputter a little bit more than Denver has the ability to sputter in those things. So like Denver kicks their shit into gear like a minute earlier, they win this game. Like it's that simple. They get like one more stop. It's a totally different thing.
I also think you guys aren't realizing, I think Miami has a much greater. I think they have a coaching advantage, honestly, with Spoelstra over Malone. Like I said before, honestly, I'm not gonna say he's the best coach in NBA history, but right now Eric Spoelstra is the best coach in the NBA, and I feel like they have a pretty sizable advantage in that department over Mike Malone. I do. I feel like Eric Spoelstra actually did a very interesting move. Is that they were able to put Butler on Jamal Murray, which was pretty smart actually, because it allowed their primary ball handler to be taken by one of the best players. So that way, if you limit Jamal Murray, you're really going to be eliminating their biggest perimeter shooter off the ball. Like Jokic isn't exactly a perimeter player as much as Murray is. So if you can eliminate their best perimeter player and put Jimmy Butler on there, who's a all NBA defender, it actually worked out pretty nicely. So I actually think the focus point in the series is more on Murray than it is on Jokic. I feel like if you stop Jamal Murray, then you can win the series.
Yeah, but they could just run them off like more pin downs. They'll bring like Aaron Gordon in to bring into those switches where he's bringing Kevin Love into the pick and rolls instead. Versus where, Love is going to have to figure out how to drop and drive. Not that Kevin Love, hasn't figured out how to do that, guarding Steph Curry. Or they maybe they'll post up fucking Michael Porter Jr. I don't even know who's guarding him at this point.
Yeah, they're definitely they're going to throw different pick and rolls other than Jokic Murray that they keep on going to. They're going to start giving different looks to this Heat defense to see what works. I'm not trying to discredit the Heat, by the way. Like, all power to them. the crazy thing with this postseason run is like if you look at their quarter by quarter, they're usually like negative in the difference, and then all of a sudden in the fourth they're like plus 90. It's like something ridiculous like that. Someone did a crazy stat. I don't have it. I had it before, but like, you know, are they going to win the finals, winning the fourth quarters every time, or being good and great in one quarter? Not necessarily. It takes all four quarters, but I mean, they do have an advantage that they have the comfortability of playing tough in the fourth quarter, and that's where coaching like Spoelstra definitely comes into the play, and it definitely came into play late in that game with some of the strategy they pulled late to get the clean looks and good shots.
Yeah. I mean, kind of going off what you said, like I'm with you guys. I still think Denver's going to win the series. I just feel like they're a little bit more talented. They have a little bit more depth, and they have guys who are able to score more at the end of the game. So I'm sticking with the prediction of Denver in the series. But I'm a little nervous about the Denver in 5 right now. Like I don't know. I don't necessarily think they're going to roll off 3 straight wins. I think this could go to 6 or 7. Actually, I'm just very surprised by Miami's ability to just keep fighting every week. And every single series, it seems like people are counting them out and they're the underdogs, and they seem to pull off away. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's going to be a great series, but
yeah,
I mean, for me, it's so easy. Like, I mean, all they have to do is just limit the 3-point shots with Duncan Robinson, and now, but they're going to get Hero back. So, I mean, they've been shooting, I want to say 49% the whole playoffs, Miami, which is a historic pace. If you limit them to like 35% or 40%, you're probably going to win the game. So I think what they have to do is they should just kind of like line up the perimeter. I would say almost run like a 2-2-1 zone or something like that, like where you can almost like kind of guard the perimeter, have someone fade out to the perimeter, like a box and one kind of.
Well, the other problem they had was they had a problem with Bam initiating from the top, which is weird because that's literally what Denver does. Just because Jokic is just a better version of that. So it's kind of weird that was what they were struck, because they ran the same things that Denver was doing. So it's not like they don't know how to stop it. I think this was one of those, okay, there was more adjustments than they were really ready to handle. And even then it took like an absurd amount for them to lose this game. It's just like they're that much.
Yeah,
more.
no, they should have won the game. I'm agreeing with you 100%. But
like that's the thing. It's like wrinkles within, like there's like little things. Obviously, it's they're the best 2 teams left. Like there's wrinkles into this that you have to, like, every little thing is, you're trying to get the advantage of on like each little segment, whether it's KCP not playing, maybe Christian Braun doesn't play as much, maybe we get a little bit more from Bruce Brown instead of KCP or something like that. Like, it's going to be, more minutes, because they blitzed them in those non-Jokic minutes. Like that was like their best stretch of the game was that when they
early fourth quarter when Jokic was sitting and they just like dunked and went off. And
no, I was talking about when Denver went off without.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
that's gotta be a problem for Miami, because those are usually minutes that Denver gets killed in.
Yeah, they found something that worked early to turn the momentum around for Denver, and I like seeing that. So it's going to be, again, this is where Spoelstra comes in. You made an adjustment in game 2 at work. We have to see what he's doing going back home. It's going to be, but for both sides at least, I think the Denver stuff is a little bit more interesting than what the Heat do. Like, what does Malone do with KCP after a lot of those fouls that he had? The Braun thing, he had some good high energy plays, but there's also defensive lapses there. Michael Porter Jr. defensive lapses. Like, it'd be interesting to see what they do early with their defense. Because
and we also do we have no like update on here? Like, there's no.
No, there was an update today. They're saying he says soreness he still has a lot of soreness in his hand, and he might not want to he might not want to upset the rhythm of the team, so he may not be coming back. There was a troubling update today about.
Yeah, that was one question I wondered. How exactly do you put him in the rotation? He said
Hero has experienced soreness and swelling in his right hand, and it can feel it when he's making his follow through shooting motion. He also shared his consideration of not wanting to come back and mess up the rhythm of the team. So he may not be coming back.
If they bring him off the bench, it should.
I was going to say you bring him off the bench as like a.
Because it's not like he's not used to doing it.
Yeah, he's used to that. He started off his career in that role and did really well. And I think he's him off the bench. I don't think you just throw him straight to the starting lineup.
And it's not like you can't replace him with like Highsmith if you need those minutes or something. Like it's you put him in for like a 2-minute stretch, see how he's feeling, and stuff like that. So there's like, it's not like it's like that's really where the wrinkle is like, where is his minutes going to come into? Because it's not like they're not going to run everything at him. Like, like you can run stuff. It's like kind of a little different with Hero and Duncan Robinson because Duncan's a little bigger. But neither of them are like great defenders. Although, like, we should give Duncan Robinson credit. Like, the improvements off the dribble that he's had in the last like 2 rounds is, saving his career because he looked like cooked a couple years ago.
Yeah, no, I agree with you on that.
But like the fact that he could dribble makes him a more effective player that he didn't have. Like, the fucking Jaylen Brown can't do that shit half the time. Like,
that lefty layup late in that game that Duncan had was awesome. Like, just to see him just be able to just be like, yeah, I'm not a shooter, I'm going to attack. And I was like, oh, you can finish through contact with your left hand? Like, that's an advantage, bro. Like, for that team to have, knowing, like, and him having the confidence to attack the basket and not just rely on his three-point shooting. Because he's been better at shooting, obviously, than he was a little while ago. But to see him actively aggressive attack the basket, I think it was very interesting weapon that the Heat are definitely going to be using going forward in the season. Just attack, be confident, and keep on attacking the basket too, because then that adds a whole other dynamic because you're pressing more of the Denver defense, because the Denver defense knows he's going to shoot, so they're going to. And that was the thing that bothered me too at times, with the simple head fake that Jamal Murray kept on falling on. But like, you add him being able to drive, and the Denver defenders running up the 3-point line, and the next he beats them because they think he's going to pull up, and he just drives by, and that's going to be huge for the Heat, I feel, going forward, or something that they hope to have going forward in the series. It wasn't just a 1-game thing.
Or in like the next year, like it gives you a little bit of a higher ceiling for a team that doesn't have a lot of shot creation. The regular season, while it's a slog, it's also a game to experiment. So if you want to have one game, you see, okay, let's see if Duncan Robinson can be an initial creator of some pick and roll shit. And maybe we roll that out in November and then see how it works, like type stuff. Like that's incrementalism, how players get better. So like it's always an improvement.
And sorry.
No, you go, Hayden.
No, I mean, I'm going to change subject a little bit. I mean, in terms of what Jokic is doing right now, I'll pose the question: are we looking at the most versatile big in NBA history? I'm not even kidding on that. Like, he's one of the he's probably one of the greatest passing bigs. Not one of the greatest. He's probably the greatest passing bigs in NBA history. In NBA history,
he's the best passing big.
I mean, is he?
Did you see the Harlem Globetrotters behind the back he did last year?
Is he Shaq? I mean, are we going to put him on the same level as Shaq? Hakeem, David Robinson. I mean, the guy is
he's better.
The guy is honestly
he's better than Robinson. Yeah, he's better than Robinson.
He's absolutely unbelievable. I mean, the guy I knew all the hype, whatever, but just seeing him play over these finals and everything. I mean, I've never seen a player. I've never seen a big this versatile in my life.
He's probably the best offensive big we'll see for a long time.
Yeah.
Until like year 3 of Victor. But like his biggest flaw is really that he's just like not athletic. Like,
I wouldn't say he's the greatest rim protector. That's what I'll say.
I think that's what from the typical center position.
I would put Shaq and Hakeem maybe as more of like the rim protectors, but I mean, in terms of what Jokic can do shooting wise.
Well, hold on. Hakeem would have much more problems surviving in today's game than.
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Like,
I mean, you have to adjust it in terms of how the game's played, but
Jokic could survive in the 90s.
He could survive in any era, honestly.
In any era, yeah,
for sure.
But like he's just and he just every time he runs stage, he just looks so goddamn goofy. He always looks like he's about to keel over. Every time you see him, he looks like he's about to die. But he's like in ridiculous shape. They always talk about it. Like,
yeah, he's a killer out there on that.
A lot of people say it's like TV, like, and it's a funny thing, right? Because there was TV ads like 10 pounds or like. You see, like, you don't realize that.
I've heard that. Yeah.
You certain athletes, right? But then you see some of these athletes in person, and you're like, oh my god,
like
I
Like a
realize that.
true 6'10" person
Yeah.
literally looks like a human giant.
Yeah, exactly. So like, I feel like if we all went to like, we're up close, like courtside seeing Jokic, I think all of us would be like, oh, okay, this is different. Like, this is not.
Makes
I would
sense
love
now.
to
like
watch
this
it
is.
courtside, just like
Yeah, like this is different, right? Like I think that's what a lot of us would see. Like to me, like this is a different sport, but like in golf, I'm a big golf fan. Like I got to see Tiger up close. In TV, he looks like obviously intimidating as hell. But then you see him on the golf course, and you're like, oh, no
He's
wonder why
jacked.
everyone folded against you because you were just the most jacked person I've ever seen on a golf
Yeah.
course. And like I feel like that would be all of us if we saw Jokic up close. That's what everyone, I feel like, obviously with my work and stuff, people are like, yeah, if you see Jokic up close in person, you completely change your mind about him because you're like, yeah, he looks so on TV, but like, if you run past me in a tunnel, it's like I just got hit by a tornado. It's like, oh my God, this guy is ginormous and actually.
well,
like,
that's like a thing we hear from time to time. Like the most famous example, like that in recently of somebody being bigger was when Mozgov came to Cleveland, like that first year, and LeBron saw him in the hallway. It was like, holy shit, this guy is big.
Yeah.
And then more recently was Paulo. Like when Paulo was walking by and people were like, he's way bigger than you think he is.
Yeah, I saw Paolo up close and I was like, wow, yeah. I saw him on his draft night and I was like, yeah, you're a big guy. Like you're a lot bigger than I thought from seeing you out on TV.
Yeah. Yeah, the tallest person I've ever seen. Well, I know I've been next to somebody who's 6'8", and that was like, whoa. And then adding a solid 6 inches for Jokic.
I don't know if you remember in college, Matt, there was one of our there was a guy who was my age. His name was Matt or Adam or something, and he was like 6'7". He was the tallest dude I've ever met in my life. Like he was huge.
Yeah.
Like
They
he was like
do.
super thin.
Trying to think of Hartford days. There was a guy who was like 7 in Hartford when we were there. Matt, I can't remember. Was it Dougal?
Was it the Australian guy?
Yeah, was it Dougal Weir? Was that his name? The Australian guy? He was like 7. He was like
I
6'11",
definitely don't
7.
recognize his face.
He was a big dude. Me personally, up close, Taco Fall. That's the biggest guy I've ever seen. Obviously, 7'5". But seeing that guy, he was in the Westchester County Center. I'm kidding you guys not. There was a doorway. I'm 6'4". I can walk through the doorway perfectly. He had to duck underneath this doorway to come into the basketball court. And I was like, oh my God, this guy is the tallest person I've ever seen in my life. He had to duck below a doorway to get into the arena. That's how massive he was.
Man, I want to see Yao Ming in person.
I want to see Jokic. I want to see all these guys. I need to know more games. I need to see these people close.
But yeah, Jokic is definitely more than just his lovable kid pictures they always show of him. I mean,
they're just funny because he is
special.
Fucking what's his face? Luka, they're so chubby with their kids.
Yeah, they were chubby with their kids. Just because the Jokic story is always hilarious. Because you get like the pictures of that kid, everyone shows out there at a dominant game, always a picture of the chubby kid. It's either the Taco Bell commercial on his draft day.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the funniest thing, but it's same with Luka too. It's like, oh yeah, Luka just dropped 60 on you, but this was him when he was like a kid, and he's like this.
He was in like 2K18 or something. He was like a 59 or something.
Yeah, it was something crazy like that.
Because he was like 12.
Yeah, I was like, who the hell is this guy? Why the hell is he in this game? Like, his rating's terrible. Didn't know he was going to be a future star of the NBA.
You got to find that staff the scouts who really found him. And yeah, and also just to add to your point, Hayden, the fact that Jokic will probably lead the Nuggets to their very first championship ever, both ABA and NBA. That's legendary in Colorado for itself and special.
Style of play is so fun too. Like Denver has a fun team, but his style of play is so fun. Like one of the passes from game 2 that I was just like in shock was he literally was backing someone down, looked like he was going to go for a hook shot. Aaron Gordon cut it and he went for the hook shot and went like above his head. Perfect lob to Aaron Gordon for a dunk. And I'm like, everyone on Miami, yeah, that one too. But like everyone on Miami was like, oh, he's going for the hook shot. And the next thing you know, you just see the ball perfectly float to Aaron Gordon for a dunk. And I was like, oh my God, that is such an insane read.
Yeah. I mean, going back to that, like, I mean, honestly, I think people were just like, I've seen him a little bit play, but just seeing him play like live every day in the finals. I mean, it's just, it's a new thing every day. Like I'm really honestly shocked how unbelievable they've been, actually. How unbelievable he's been. Like he's,
and also
I would
like
say,
there was
yeah, sorry about that.
There was talk about like, oh, how do we market this guy? The answer is he's Larry Bird if Larry Bird was 7 feet tall and
That's right.
200 and like 60
Larry,
pounds
yeah,
heavy.
he's Larry Bird or he's the Magic Johnson of centers. He's funny. He's like sarcastically funny, and you can find so many press clips of where he's just absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, I put it in the last episode on
Yeah.
the audio version of his quotes. He's great.
He's great. He's just a fun passer. He has insane you can market this guy in so many different ways. It's just weird that like
His brothers are scary.
Yeah, his brothers are scary, but it's like you have to say like Giannis, right? Like people are like, how can you market Giannis? And it's like, how can you not market Giannis? The dude can print you money. He's the same kind of stuff. He's sarcastically funny. He has a great family, great story. Jokic, same thing.
Yes.
Great story, funny guy.
The
Baby
Jokic
Giannis
comparison to Bird is a good one. I actually agree.
Baby
with that.
Giannis stories are like some of the best shit ever.
Yeah.
Like the smoothie one,
Yeah.
or like him like not having enough money and he was running to the stadium and somebody picked him up and stuff like that shit is great. Like
Yeah.
I don't know if
Chick-fil-A.
All right. So I got a question for you guys. Would you take Jokic to have the final shot over someone like Giannis or LeBron
Yes.
right now?
Yes.
You would take Jokic?
Yeah,
Giannis
Jokic
can't shoot.
from those. Yeah, Jokic is the pure as way. If you're comparing Jokic and Giannis,
Like
is
one
the fact
one
that Jokic
shot,
is a pure
like
NBA
one shot
player.
at one shot at the end of the game. You got Giannis, Jokic, Curry, and LeBron. Like you
No,
would
then
take.
it's
I mean,
Curry.
you have to do Curry.
But
Definitely not
if
LeBron.
it's Giannis, Jokic, or
I don't know.
LeBron,
I think I'd still take Jokic over Curry.
Really?
I think
That's
it depends on what the shot is. So if I just need one basket,
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna take Jokic
Mhm.
because he can score in any way, and he's so much bigger that like if I put him on the block, there's like 3 people in the league who can actually kind of just defend him. But if it's like, okay, I need like a 3, then obviously
Curry, yeah.
like
But Curry's so good at getting like separation. I mean, Jokic does too with like a soundboard shuffle move, or so it's tough. That's a really good question though. But that's a tough. I would say Curry if it's one shot just because his shot's so clean. He can always find a way with his dribbling to get a clean shot. But
I gotta
it-
tell you though, Jimmy Butler. I'm not saying I would take him, but he's almost got to be on the list now in terms of the postseason.
and like
He's got
postseason clutch.
He's got
yeah.
He's got that dog in him a little bit, Jimmy Butler. I'll say that.
But like that's the thing. It's like Butler is weird because it's not like he hits like buzzer beaters. He
doesn't
hits,
have the
like,
greatest
big
numbers.
shots.
He never
It's
has
like
the
big
greatest
shots
numbers.
when you need
No.
him.
he's
he'll
still
be
a
there.
little tentative in this
Yeah.
series. That's like a weird
A little
thing.
bit.
for sure. He
Yeah,
hasn't
little
really
bit.
had a special
He
moment.
hasn't-
Bam had
he
to be the
hasn't
one
been,
to carry
yeah.
him.
He
Yeah,
hasn't
but
been.
he hasn't really
good.
been the postseason Jimmy Butler ever since the ankle injury against the Knicks. Like he hasn't really
Good
outright
point.
taken over a game. But he still had like game 2, like just not off the chart stat, but he had a couple of huge buckets in that fourth quarter. Like that big corner 3 he hit. He had another tough contest. He had that and one floater.
Yeah,
He had
I
a
think
couple big buckets. So he's still showing up. He's just not going like off for 56 and 8. He's doing impacting in different ways, I guess, if you will.
and
He
give
is more
credit to
playable.
Bam because Bam really is showing his all around NBA skills in this series specifically.
Bam changed
Yeah,
my mind.
They're saying Jimmy Butler's father isn't like well, so that's why
Yeah,
he
there's
hasn't
stuff
been,
going on too.
Oh,
there's
I
stuff
didn't
going
hear
on in
that.
his
I'm sorry.
family.
Yeah, there's like
So,
there's like a story going around that his dad's supposed to not do well, so that's like what's weighing on him right now. But like, I don't know. He hasn't mentioned it yet, so I guess we'll see now that this story is kind of coming out what he have to say about it. But obviously that could be something that's weighing on him. But he's still showing up, so it's not like he's going offers and stuff. He's still trying to be the best he can. It's also tough when that team that size and they know if they limit the scoring, they have a good chance to win. So they're hyper focused on the defense for him too.
Also, I think I saw this, but I haven't really seen it being confirmed. I think the thought is that Jaws is going to be out half of next season. Has anyone heard anything about
It's
that?
not.
Like,
It's
John
not
Moran?
confirmed.
You
Yeah,
talk about
It's-
yeah. Well, we know that Silver is going to announce it after the finals. I say 41 games if you're asking
Yeah,
me half a season. Make
I
a
don't.
statement.
Just to preference everything so people know that. Like, don't. This is my opinion. This is not. I don't know anything on the inside on the John Moran situation. Just to put that out on the tip for everyone. But if Adam Silver is saying that he's waiting until after the finals to make the announcement, it's going to be either half the season or full season in my eyes.
I think so too. That story would overtake. That arguably would overtake the finals.
And that's why that's why he's protecting it, right? And then I think the thing after that too is if he announces it before the draft or not. Because if it's going to take away from the draft,
Yeah, that is a
I
short
mean-
window.
Well,
Another
they have to announce it before the draft because it's going to change
June
what.
that's what I'm
22nd.
thinking too. I think it's going to drop right after the finals, a day or two after the finals is over, so that the Grizzlies got to figure out what they're going to do with their draft strategy.
Because they have to punt the season. Like if he's out half of the season,
Well,
you gotta-
they're still solid when he's not on the court as a team.
yeah.
yeah, but you can't like they first of all they need to punt.
yeah,
They
yeah.
should punt anyway,
They should,
just
but yeah.
because
Yeah.
they need like they just need more.
Yeah.
Like if there's anything we just saw, they need more.
Mhm.
And so they got a fuck ton of young guys that they don't know what they have in. So they can like let's see exactly
they
how
do.
good Bane is. Let's see if Jackson can make it through a whole season.
And get Kenny
Um,
Lofton to have some minutes or whatever, right? His name? Who's the kid?
Yeah,
the young
Kenny
kid
Lofton.
they had? Yeah,
Do they
that
still
played
have-
with-
Do they still have
Lofton's kid?
what the fuck is his name? Zaire Williams from a couple years ago? Give that kid a run.
I think so. I'm pretty sure. I think he was playing down in the G. Or the series he was hurt. When they
Yeah, like give it season, and maybe they suck enough to get a decent pick, but like,
yeah, he's still with them.
yeah, you use it as a developmental season. You they don't because they're not going to win a title next season, especially with 41 games of Ja. You're gonna be let's say they win all 41 games with Ja. They go unprecedented 41 and up. Like okay, then you're probably the 1 seed. But like more realistically, they're gonna go about 50% with those games because it's gonna fuck up whatever chemistry they have. So you're probably looking at a play.
Yep, absolutely. And yeah, and that it is a short window. The draft is June 22nd. Say this game goes to 7 games, that would be Father's Day, which is the 18th. So that Thursday. So obviously going to be a big weekend either way, but it'll be very interesting. And one last thing I want to bring up before we just quickly make our predictions for game 3. And this is more relating to the Heat and something I have somewhat mentioned a couple of times with this team, but I saw someone's tweet. Dave Portnoy of Barstool said, maybe after game 2, maybe more GMs should pay attention to how these guys win rather than bending over for the Kyrie match of the world. So pretty much saying we're seeing a team working more fundamentally in role player roles instead of getting your big 3 and try to win that way. And if game 2, if anything, showed why they should more focus on that and steer away towards the big 3, do you think that is
Well-
more the way to go? Less
Well, the
star
big 3
power,
model is-
more finding role players to win games.
Okay,
like the
you know
2011 Mavericks.
You know what? I'm gonna call bullshit on that. All right, you still need superstar players to win in this league. Like they still have Jimmy Butler, like they still have Nikola Jokic. They have two of the top 10 players in the league, arguably you could say. Like I don't know about Jimmy Butler, but like Jokic, obviously, you still need a superstar or someone in this league to be a superstar. I mean, whether you need a second or third guy, I think that's also true. But you're not winning in this league without a superstar. Every team that's in the finals or every team that's in the playoffs, maybe with the exception of the Knicks, has a top 10 player in the league.
Well, also the big 3 model is dead anyway. Like
Yeah. It's not happening anymore.
because of just like teams are going to have to build more toward how Miami is simply because they don't have the cap space to not do that. Like and so I actually think the impact of the CBA is it's going to drive down contract prices because a combination of guys with like you're only going to be able to pay so many people now because of the caps. And also because there's a 65 game restriction for awards, that's going to limit guys' potentials for like Supermax and shit. So guys who should be getting money or guys who don't technically earn it, like Ja can't be an All NBA recipient next year. Like if they
Oh,
it's just-
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
he's not gonna play enough games. Don't you have to
Yeah.
play?
Right,
don't you
right.
have to play
65,
60
yeah.
games?
Yeah,
so
65.
maybe on Ja's next contract, he doesn't qualify for whatever the mega max is. So in that case, Ja's contract is now cut in half or whatever the difference is. So, or guys like Embiid is probably not going to get to another All NBA team or like something like that. Like things like that are going to drive down contracts. And it's also going to up things. Like maybe we end up in a weird place where fucking Zach LaVine makes an all-star team. Just because guys miss it, or LaMelo makes an all-star team, and now the Hornets have to pay him $300 million for something. Like it's going to fuck with like salaries, and I think it's going to ultimately drive them down a little bit for the maybe the upper crust of guys, like their first contract they're going to get back, but then their second one, they probably won't make as much because they'll be like a little more load management. But no, there's no big three area. It's going to be like you're going to get your guys and figure out how to work around them.
Yeah, I mean, we're also looking at it, right? Like you hear the news that Kyrie is trying to recruit LeBron to Mavericks, and everyone's looking at it. It's like not with the new CBA, you're not doing that, because it's like you can't have three max
really
contract
stupid.
players. Yeah, it's also very dumb, but it's like you can't have three max contract players on the same team and make it all work, right?
No,
So
it's
Well, also no, hold on. Like if you had three max contract players, you could make it work if you paid everybody else.
but
like
yeah,
10.
but then
But
to
the
pull
bigger
that
issue
off
is
difficult. Yeah.
what is Dallas going to offer the Lakers to get LeBron?
Yeah.
Like they get nothing.
Yeah, they're not gonna. LeBron's not getting a buyout, so that's what I'm saying. As an example, like that's why it's not going to work. But to match like kind of original thing of stars and everything, like I agree with Hayden. Like you're definitely going to need stars, but I think like organically building your team is, I think, going to be in the more positive way because you see the team like the Heat, they're organically built. They found these guys, they scouted these guys, they developed these guys. Same with the Nuggets. They scout these guys, they draft these guys, they develop these guys, look at their team. And then they add the veterans and the pieces that make everything work and click and work in their systems. So I think that's how the NBA is going to go. I don't think players or a lot of stars now are going to recruit. I mean, Phoenix might be the last example of us seeing kind of that big kind of move. But then again, it wasn't like they're all 25. They're all aging with decent, high-end contracts, but still decent where they can make some flexibility and make things move if they have to, right? So I think it's going to be an interesting time, but yeah, I think the era of these big three where a bunch of superstars are going to all sign up, I think seeing that the Nuggets and the Heat, two teams that have a superstar, if you want to call Jimmy Butler a superstar, you could say that. I think he is. Jokic, obviously, but you have really solid players below, like your Jamal Murray's, Heat have Gabe Vincent, they have Bam, things like that. Make it work, and I think that's what's going to make the league interesting. I think it's now an era where players are saying, okay, I can stay in my city, be my star, hopefully bring talent in for me, and we can make things work and compete, because the last few years we've had that example of champions that didn't buy the way to a ring, if you want to use that term. They were all teams that were built organically, whether signing or trading and drafting. You look at Bucks was the same way. They added, Giannis with Chris Middleton, and then he added all the pieces they need. They win a championship. So, Golden State, obviously, same thing. Yeah, they had to pay these guys to keep them all together, but they did. A lot of big sacrifices, but again, all competitive. So I think that's what the league is turning more, and especially now the CBA, it's going to be way hard for all these top level stars all team up to try to get their rings.
Final thing to discuss. Give me your Game 3 predictions at this moment. Denver, Miami, Game 3 in Miami. Denver is opening at -2.5. What's going to happen? Heat winning Game 3 or the Heat? Sorry, is the Nuggets winning Game 3 or the Heat winning Game 3?
I'm going to go Nuggets by 10. They're going to win by double digits. Game 3. I'm not going to have a final score because it's too difficult to do, but I'm going to say Nuggets by at least 10 in Game 3 with a win.
Yeah, for me, I'm saying it's going to be the Nuggets Game 2. And remember, not only Mike Malone calling out his team, but also you hear teammates like Jeff Green had some choice words regarding the effort. And
yeah, and how many more shots is Jeff Green going to get at a title? Like
exactly.
Yeah, he can't keep on losing. He's got to win at least one. Come on, Jeff. We're rallying for you here on the podcast.
Right. Yeah.
Let's get the Sonics one more title.
Clearly. I mean, yeah, this is, as long as Denver's on their A game, they're going to be your NBA champions. And though it'd be interesting if Miami won Game 3 for the sake of a series being a series, but I think Denver is gonna snap back into reality and win it.
Yeah, I got Denver winning.
I got Denver too, but I think I had it in 5 originally. I think it's gonna be 6 now. Denver in 6. I originally had it in 5, but
I was still. I know I called for the sweep and I lost that. So, but I'm still going Denver in 5. Look at my travel.
I will stick with Game 6 as my as my prediction. I think Miami would sneak in a win in Game 4. At least get one at home.
I think Miami's gonna win in Game 5. They're gonna Denver's gonna make it 3-1, and then Miami will make it 3-2, and then I think Denver's gonna win. but I think
Mhm.
Miami has proven that they can fight. After they won, if it was 2-0, I would have said that I would have kept my prediction at 5. But I feel like because Miami got a win on Denver's home court, I feel like they're gonna win one more.
Sweet. All right. Good stuff, gentlemen. Well, I'll wrap up our discussion today. Hopefully, we'll talk at the end of this week to see where this goes. And yeah, I think beyond everything, let's just have a great quality series. And I sure will get that. All right. We'll talk later, guys. See ya.
But